Hi, welcome to the Mainspringer channel. I'm Parikh, and in today's video, we're going to talk about three things. The first is the origin of the quartz watch. The second is the romanticism of the quartz watch. And the third is why quartz watch is one of the best things in timekeeping. Let's go. Ever since the advent of mechanical watches, there has always been the pursuit for accuracy in timekeeping. Timekeeping was essential, not just important, for day-to-day operation. Professionals in the railways, divers, scientists relied on these devices for their jobs. Now, once in a while, one could build a very expensive experimental proof-of-concept mechanical watch that kept exceptional accuracy in timing, but it came at a price where most of these watches were extremely large or extremely sensitive to external parameters. So miniaturizing something of that sort to the wrist was not possible. This obsession and the pursuit for accuracy led to the idea of using electricity and magnetism in tandem to regulate time. The first big transition came with the advent of the tuning fork mechanism. The way this watch worked was the mechanical regulator was replaced with a tuning fork, and this tuning fork could be made to vibrate at a certain frequency, in some cases at 300 Hertz, or that's 300 times a second. The vibration was achieved by electromagnetism, and a much more accurate timekeeping was achieved. These watches hummed, and the second hand moved like a traditional mechanism, but these watches typically had poor battery lives and were easily affected by shock. The tuning fork watch did not last too long. It lasted for about 10 years, and then the advent of the quartz technology and the stepper motor meant an end to this technology. Quartz watches use an effect called the piezoelectric effect. In the simplest terms, it means if you applied electricity, you got a mechanical response, and if you applied a mechanical response to the quartz crystal, you got electricity. When you applied a voltage to this quartz crystal, it tends to vibrate at 32,768 times per second, or 32,768 Hertz. The way the quartz watch works is there is an integrated circuit that counts these vibrations, and when it counts the exact number of vibrations, it advances the second hand by one step and starts counting the vibrations again for the next second recording. Now, you can let the hands move at a constant rate like a mechanical watch, but the problem is if you did this in a quartz watch, your battery would be dead very soon. This is where the stepper motor was critical to the development of the quartz watch. By having the second hand advance once every second, you actually get a longer battery life out of the quartz watches. And even so, most quartz watches typically have a battery life that averages around 2 to 3 years. If you like this video, hit the like button, and if you want more of such videos, hit the subscribe button. I put a lot of time and effort to bring these videos that are different and unique, along with some occasional reviews, but I do not want to be just another Me Too Watch channel. Thank you for your support. Now we're going to jump into a tangent and talk about the Swiss chronometry accuracy trials. Starting from the late 50s, early 60s, the Japanese entrants had been steadily improving in their Swiss chronometry trials held by the Neuchâtel Observatory. The competition eventually got cancelled in 1967, and now when I talk about the Japanese entrants, I'm really referring to King Seiko and Grand Seiko, the two companies that were created by Seiko in order to improve and challenge the Swiss at timekeeping. They were constantly improving and had gotten into the top 10 most accurate mechanical movements. The next stop was the time trials in Geneva as a part of the Observatory of Geneva competitions in 1968. To fight the Japanese, the Swiss pulled out all the stops and led to the creation and introduction of the Beta 21 movement, an experimental concept movement that kept extreme accuracy. The Beta 21 occupied places 1, 2, and 3, and the Seiko-backed watches took the 4th to the 10th place, essentially making them the most accurate mechanical watch movement in the world. However, the Swiss never pursued the idea of the QUARTZ watch with much rush. Meanwhile, Seiko had been experimenting with quartz technology since the late 50s, making travel clocks using this technology. About 2 years after the trials, in 1969, Seiko introduced the Astron that revolutionized watchmaking because there was nothing as accurate in performance that came from a mechanical watch. The race to the most accurate watch at that time took a giant step forward, and the Swiss did not have an answer to that. This led to what we call the quartz crisis, and within a short time, the Swiss watch industry went from 80,000 employees down to 30,000 employees. Now later, through the coalition of Swiss companies, the Beta 21 made a reappearance with quartz technology in a lot of high-end watches. Some of the participants that used the Beta 21 movement were Patek Philippe, Rolex, and Audemars Piguet. Later, the Swiss developed the Swatch watch brand that became the forefront of cool, disposable quartz watch generations. So that's a quick history of the quartz watches. The next topic we're going to talk about is really the romanticism of quartz. Now, when we talk about the race for the most accurate watch, quartz technology has to definitely be in the forefront. When you think about Seiko and the Japanese culture, there's something so pure and zen about accuracy, great finishing, and perfection. There is a quote that says, "Every artist uses the best tool available to them at that time." The cavemen used colored pigments, brushes and canvases then came, printing, photography, art has evolved in many ways, and different artists during their own time use the latest technology available to them in order to make great art. Why should it be any different with the art of timekeeping? And this is where using quartz watches or using quartz technology in order to advance the art of timekeeping seems the most logical and the simplest and purest approach to make a more accurate watch. But remember, the mechanical watch industry and the Swiss watch industry in particular had been decimated. The tables had to be turned. This is where the Swatch watch comes in. It was a fun, cheap, plastic, disposable watch that need not be taken seriously. The resurgence of mechanical watches in some way needed the vilification of the quartz watch. Soon, words like handcrafted, handworked, beautifully finished, high-end were all part of marketing. No one dare spoke about the accuracy of the mechanical watches in the face of the quartz watch. But the truth is there is a lot of science to quartz watches too. Quartz watches can be exquisitely finished, and there are a lot of unique innovations in the space, and we will look at those in part 2 of this video, where we discuss 3 amazing quartz watches that I think are better than their mechanical counterparts. The last point I want to talk about is timekeeping without a hassle, and why I call quartz watches one of the best things that ever happened to the watch industry. I understand mechanical watches are romantic and they have exquisite movements, beautiful finishing. Winding these watches may be a therapeutic experience for some, and there is this connection between man and machine with these pieces. However, along with that comes a certain set of drawbacks. There is loss of accuracy with time. These watches need servicing. These watches can get magnetized. You're in a rush and you pick up the watch and the watch hasn't been set or isn't running. You have to set that in an urgency. These watches cannot take a beating. Things like impact and shock can dramatically affect their performance. Parts can break, parts can get misaligned, and if you do not take care of them immediately, they could cause even further damage to these watches. And last but not the least, servicing these watches aren't cheap. Sometimes you just need a watch to tell the time all the time and does not get in the way of your life. This is where a very well-made, unique quartz watch can really add value to one's portfolio. Thank you for listening and watching to this video. If you like this video, once again, hit the like button, and if you want to watch more of these videos, hit the subscribe button. What are your thoughts about quartz watches and quartz technology? Do you own a quartz watch? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you in part 2. Take care.